Well, I've cancelled my original plan on comparing one episode from this show to the loudest mission relative chaos episode from season 2 of The Loud House. But after watching the first episode, and the fact that the hate of this show is getting really old, especially since that it's been 2 years almost where we got the introduction slash preview of this show. This show isn't terrible. It just isn't good for me to consider on binge watching more episodes. After watching the first 5 episodes, this was the episode that I stopped at because I couldn't be able to be invested with the later episodes of this show. And the fact that comparing Primos to the Loud House or the Casagrande is honestly a cheap tactic if you want to bash on the show more, which that's not what I'm doing. And since that this is the episode that I stopped, well, I consider it the only similarity from one of the Loud House episodes, at least in my point of view, since this is the closest I'm ever going to see Loud House and Primos have comparisons. This is mostly a positive since that the Primos episode is considered good. The Loud House episode Roadie to Noel showcases Luna figuring out that Chunk was still in high school and dealt with not becoming a great rock star when it comes to pursuing dreams, so she attempts to find multiple jobs in order to make her dream a reality, something that Chunk didn't do. In the Primos episode, Tato tags along with Lita while Lita has 3 jobs that she needs the money in order to pursue her dreams, and Tato wants to be her manager, but at the same time Lita is making so many mistakes that having a job for herself just isn't in her blood. And the same thing applies to Luna. Well, she tries to get multiple jobs in order to make money, but apparently her adrenaline causes her to lose every single one of them. The biggest comparison with these 2 episodes is Luna and Lita, not because they're both rock stars pursuing their dreams, but it's obviously the fact that no matter what job they do, they're not really qualified when it comes to being employees. And the biggest difference of these 2 episodes is that Lincoln isn't a main character in the Loud House episode, and he only appears towards the end of that episode. Tato and one of her dreams is her being a businesswoman in order to help out other people's dreams. And truth be told, if Lincoln was in this position, aside from helping multiple people's dreams, because I don't think he would probably want that as his future, that would be something that he would help Luna in this type of scenario when it comes to finding multiple jobs. But since the Loud House episode is focusing on Luna and her independence, it still makes great character development. Even though I still wanted Lincoln and Luna episodes, it still makes this episode worth sitting through. Truth be told, guys, these 2 episodes' similarities when it comes to the characters, Luna's journey going through multiple jobs in order to find one in order to have an actual future, really makes her growth a lot more justified, because if she never had this type of development, she would have been bland, and looking back into the earlier episodes centering around her, it wouldn't even further her character if she didn't go nowhere. Hence the title of the episode, Roadie to Nowhere. But I'm not gonna lie, for how Tato is willing to help out Lita by any means necessary, honestly, her fantasies when it comes to Lita having a less popular rockstar life is honestly wholesome, judging the fact that it showcases the type of character that Tato is. She's looking after her cousins, or Primos in this case, and the fact that when it comes to Lita, she is taking her more seriously compared to the other characters, considering that Lita is preparing for adulthood. And the same thing applies to Luna, despite the fact that she is still in high school. But at the same time, Lita may still be in high school. Even though I don't remember a lot from this show after watching the previous episodes, including the chunk of episodes from this season, the way I look at it, this episode showcases the type of direction that it's taking the characters, and it's not being too over the top than what people think, as in the stereotypes when it comes to the character designs. Truth be told, I'm not a fan of the character designs, including Lita herself, but at the same time, it's hard to see these designs as the worst character designs in all of animation, or cartoons in this case. And truth be told, I don't really have anything against people when it comes to saying that these designs are terrible, but if this is literally the reason that you don't want to watch the show, since that the character designs aren't as appealing, it's one thing, but if you ignore the main reasons onto why people are not into the show, then I'm not going to agree with your opinion. And since this analysis has nothing to do with comparing character designs from both shows, all I can say is that focusing on the character motivations is a lot more important than the character designs. Because if Luna, along with the other characters, didn't have appealing designs, but still has good writing regardless, then nothing would change my opinion. Granted, I would probably like the Loud House less, but at the same time, it's not like that the character designs make the show. And to further on the details of that fact, I don't like Chunk's design, even though that he's supposed to look like that, and yet his writing showcases of how much he can carry the episode whenever Luna is trying to further the plot. As much as Primos attempts to be an episode of its own, it still wouldn't be able to beat this episode, judging of how that they really knew how to handle Luna's character a lot more in this. Even though I didn't watch the Luna-centered episodes in the later seasons since I stopped watching this show by season 7, you have to admit that every time Luna carries an episode, you really want to know more about her, and truth be told, she is one of the only characters that I enjoy from the Loud House. To give credit what credit is due though, Lita, while not as great as Luna, can still be able to carry an episode on her own, especially when it comes to her crush towards one character. Granted, I didn't see that, but I've heard that when it comes to looking up Lita's character when it comes to making this video. I will say this though, the chemistry between Taylor and Lita isn't on the same levels as Lincoln and Luna, but then again, I'm not really expecting a lot of similarities. The thing is that whenever I think about Taylor attempting to helping out Lita, she is doing her job in order to help out Lita, which is the whole point of her presence. But at the same time, when it comes to the later episodes, it's supposed to be a different chemistry, which I would be on board with, but at the same time, I'm not going to be able to have the same vibes that I have from the Loud House when it comes to Lincoln and Luna being together, despite the fact that it only happened in one episode. And to be more honest, I'm not a fan of Taylor despite the fact that her motivations make her unique, but if there's one thing that I can't be able to stand, is her voice. I'm just saying that the voice actor is just doing her job, and it does fit Taylor's voice naturally, but that doesn't mean that I like Taylor's voice. And for the many times that people have been complaining about Lincoln having different voice changes because he's always being voiced as a boy child, at the very least, I can still sit through the multiple voices from him rather than Tato. It's mostly a distracting that I have to at least feel sympathy towards Tato, but at the same time, it really feels like that she is trying way too hard to carry the episode, while Lincoln has the charisma on carrying the episode on his own, even without his sisters, despite the fact that people really wanted to see him bond with his sisters more than his friends. And when you take into the consideration of the fact that the Loud sisters are willing to carry an episode on their own, there's probably a reason on me not remembering the Primos characters, or mainly the fact that while some of their personalities may be energetic and different compared to the Loud sisters or even the Casagantes characters, it really just made me think that it's not really possible to make another Loud House. I mean, the Primos managed to succeed when it comes to the details that they did, but at the same time, it just makes me feel like that having another Loud House show is not possible. Lita may have the ability to carry an episode, but when it comes to the little Primos, I really don't know, to be honest. And since I'm in the same position on not remembering all their names, similar to the Loud House when I got into the show for the first time, truth be told, it will probably take a long time if I'm actually into every single character, but since this isn't new to me, no other show, aside from the Casagantes possibly, would have the same charisma when it comes to a large family of any other relatives. Truth be told, remembering the Loud House sisters will be etched in my brain, despite the fact that I do not like all of their appearances. So with that being said, when it comes to the ending of Primos, I would say it's still wholesome, despite the fact that it won't top the ending of the Loud House episode. But I have to admit, it did showcase Tato being a good character in order to help out Lee to work at the pizza restaurant that her and the other Primos are at when it comes to eating pizza. And honestly, this is still a step on having Lita to continue on with her dream and still having a job in order to make it happen. If there are Lita songs in this show in the same fashion as those Luna songs in the Loud House, I wouldn't be able to enjoy them more than Luna songs, but it's still clever to have her have songs in some other way, because if she doesn't have any songs, then she will probably be less appealing. Because truth be told, if you're gonna have a character that's into music, whatever if it's Rockstar or anything, then they still need songs. But it just depends on the songs themselves, on how you write them, and it's mostly debatable on the songs of this show because it's kind of hard to consider which song is superior that isn't a Luna song. But with that being said, the Loud House episode is the superior episode over the Primos episode, and it really feels like it's been a long time since I said something like that, even though that this has nothing to do with the Loud House vs. Casagantes material, but I've moved on from that, but I might come back to it, just not anytime soon. Primos is a mediocre show that still has some passion into it, but it's gonna take a while for me to get back into the show, and when it comes to comparing it to another episode that has similarities, it's actually from The Ghost and Molly McGee, but I'm actually going to review something from The Ghost and Molly McGee on Mother's Day. When it comes to the Loud House, there are multiple ideas to make videos out of, especially in the state that I'm in, but I'm still really considered on doing those ideas, since I was originally going to talk about Fool Me Twice on April Fool's earlier this month, but I've been too stress when it comes to negativity involving this show and the fandom, but it's not what everyone else thinks, because I might consider on talking about the criticisms and the fandom itself, because in all honesty, weirdness, pro-shipping, or shipping in general, or anything like that when it comes to the fandom of the Loud House is no longer something to bring up, because it's getting really, really old and not worth being ignored when it comes to bringing up the issues of people constantly bringing up the fandom of this show as one of the reasons why they're avoiding the Loud House. I would believe them, but at this point, it's not really something I'm on board with. Time will tell when I get to make that type of video, but as of now, it's not the time. I'm giving the Loud House episodes in 8.5 out of 10, while the Primos episode gets a 7.25 out of 10.